In the heart of Seoul, inside the gleaming glass and marble walls of the Obsidian Sky Lounge, Power did not just walk through the heavy double doors. It dined there. The restaurant, perched on the top floor of the city's most exclusive luxury hotel, was a high-society sanctuary reserved strictly for the nation's top 1%. This was a place where multi-billion-dollar corporate empires were traded over quiet dinners, where international suppliers finalized their shipments, and where the most powerful high-class men in Korea came to escape the prying eyes of the public. The atmosphere always smelled faintly of expensive cologne, aged oak, and fresh orchids, maintained under a strict code of absolute discretion. But among all the wealthy dignitaries and VIP customers who frequented the lounge, there was one man who commanded the room without ever raising his voice. Park Jin-woo walked into the room like weather enters a season, inevitable, heavy, and changing the temperature of everything around him without trying. At 32 years old, he was the sole heir to a massive real estate and global shipping empire that he had inherited from his late father, making him the richest and most sought-after bachelor in the city. To the business world, Jin-woo was an untouchable ice king. He was ruthless in negotiations, completely unbothered by high-society romance, and entirely devoid of personal warmth. But the elite crowd watching him slide into his permanently reserved table by the window did not know his deepest secret. He had not actually tasted a single meal in 9 long years. Ever since the sudden, tragic passing of his beloved mother, the world had lost all its flavor. His mother had been a legendary, passionate cook who had showered him with love through her incredible dishes right from the day he was born, training his palate to recognize true culinary mastery. When she died, Jin-woo's soul went completely numb. For nearly a decade, eating was nothing more than a mechanical chore to keep his body moving. He frequented the hotel restaurant out of pure habit, staring blankly out at the city skyline while pushing expensive food around his plate, tasting absolutely nothing. Downstairs, in the bustling basement kitchen of the hotel, the atmosphere was a stark contrast to the quiet luxury of the dining room. It was a chaotic symphony of clanging pots, shouting chefs, and hissing steam. Hidden away in the background of this high-pressure environment was the restaurant's newest hire. Zuri Vance was a striking, radiant Afro-Caribbean woman with skin like rich mahogany and a natural grace that did not belong in a dark basement kitchen. She had recently relocated to Seoul, bringing with her a rare, almost magical talent for culinary arts that she had cultivated since she was a little girl. To Zuri, cooking was not just a career, it was her language of love, a way to speak when words failed her. Back home, she could make an entire street stand still just from the mouth-watering, aromatic aroma wafting from her stove. But in Seoul, the hotel management had explicitly told her to stay small, stay quiet, and stay out of sight. They reminded her daily that the wealthy men who ate upstairs did not notice the help. They only noticed their numbers and their deals. Zuri did not mind the isolation. She put on her pristine white chef's apron, lifted her chin, and poured her entire heart into the food, letting her hands do the talking. On that particular Tuesday afternoon, fate shifted. The executive head chef suddenly fell ill mid-shift, leaving the VIP kitchen line in a state of absolute panic. With Jin-woo's high-status arrival announced over the intercom, the kitchen staff was frantic. Zuri stepped up to the stove without a single trace of hesitation. She decided to prepare a masterful, high-concept modern fusion plate featuring her signature rich, slow-simmered, aromatic Jollof rice blend, perfectly spiced, layered with smoky peppers, and plated with exquisite, fine dining elegance. She wiped the edge of the plate clean and handed it to the head waiter, disappearing back into the shadows of the prep line before anyone could see her face. Upstairs, the waiter placed the steaming plate in front of Park Jin-woo. The billionaire picked up his silver fork with his usual cold, mechanical indifference. He took a single, casual bite just to get through the day. Suddenly, time stood still. Jin-woo completely froze, his fork hovering inches from his face. The complex explosion of rich flavors, deep warmth, and genuine soul hit his tongue like a lightning bolt. For the first time in 9 agonizing years, the thick ice around his heart cracked wide open. The food was not just delicious. It tasted exactly like the unconditional love, passion, and comfort his mother used to feed him. His hand began to tremble against the white tablecloth. He lowered the fork slowly, his eyes instantly turning wet with an overwhelming emotion he had buried for a decade. He looked at the plate as if it were a miracle. The hotel general manager, who had been hovering nearby to monitor the VIP customer, noticed the billionaire's sudden stiffness. The manager's stomach instantly dropped to the floor in absolute panic. He rushed over to the table, bowing frantically until his forehead almost touched the wood. "Mr. Park, I am deeply, deeply sorry. Is there a problem with the meal? Did the kitchen make a mistake? I will personally fire the responsible cook immediately and have the dish remade by our senior chef. Please forgive this disaster." Jin-woo did not look up from the plate. His voice was low, cutting through the manager's panicked rambling like a sharp blade. "Quiet. Who prepared this meal?" The manager stammered, wiping sweat from his forehead. It was the new black lady cook, sir. A lady named Zuri. She was just hired this week. I will dismiss her right now, so she never darkens this kitchen again." "Dismiss her?" Jin-woo finally looked up, his eyes burning with an intense authority that made the manager's whole body freeze. "Bring her to me, right now." Down in the kitchen, the service door slammed open, and the manager's voice echoed off the stainless steel walls. "Zuri, get out here right now. Mr. Park wants you at his table immediately. Move." Zuri's co-workers gasped, whispering in immediate panic. "Zuri, did you put too much spice? Are you getting fired?" Nobody gets summoned to his table for a small reason. Zuri felt her knees turn to water for a split second, but she refused to let fear dictate her posture. She untied her apron with steady hands, smoothed down her uniform, and lifted her chin with natural pride. She had moved across an ocean to build a life, and if she was going to be fired today, she would meet her end with her back perfectly straight. She walked out of the kitchen and entered the grand, quiet dining room, her presence instantly drawing the eyes of the high-status guests. When she reached the window table, she stopped and gave a beautiful, respectful, traditional low bow, blending her own natural poise with the custom of the city. "Good afternoon, sir. I am Zuri Vance. I understand you requested to see the person who prepared your meal." Jin-woo looked at the woman standing before him, and for the first time in his life, he was completely breathless. He was not just struck by the incredible flavor of her food. He was instantly captivated by her striking, radiant black beauty and the absolute dignity she carried herself with. The entire dining room had gone dead silent, every manager watching with bated breath, expecting a storm. Instead, a soft, rare smile broke across the billionaire's stoic face. "Please, have a seat," Jin-woo said gently, gesturing to the chair directly across from him. Zuri hesitated for a fraction of a second, then sat down carefully, keeping her eyes locked onto his. "Sir, is there an issue with the seasoning?" Jin-woo leaned forward, his voice dropping to a vulnerable whisper that only she could hear. "Do you know how long it has been since I ate something and actually tasted it? 9 years. My mother used to cook with that exact same heart. She passed away 9 years ago, and since that day, I have tasted absolutely nothing. Until I took a bite of your food today. You gave me my senses back." Zuri's defensive posture instantly softened. She recognized the look in his eyes. It was the raw, uncomplicated ache of grief, a language she understood all too well. "I'm sorry for your loss, sir. I always believe that when you cook, you are pouring your soul into the plate. I'm glad my food could bring you comfort." Jin-woo turned his head slightly and snapped his fingers, summoning the stunned manager who was standing frozen a few feet away. "Manager, listen to me clearly. Give Zuri a full 1-week paid vacation immediately, charged directly to my private corporate account. She is not to touch a single pot in this building for the next 7 days. I am personally taking her away to award her for this miracle." The manager's mouth opened in shock, but he quickly bowed. "Yes, sir, right away. Whatever you require." Before Zuri could even process the whirlwind of the moment, She found herself walking down a private dock the next morning, stepping onto a magnificent, multi-million-dollar luxury superyacht. The vessel cut through the deep blue ocean waters under a brilliant sun. For 3 glorious days, Jin-woo completely stripped away his ruthless billionaire persona. Away from the pressure of boardrooms and flashing paparazzi cameras, he became a man who laughed freely. They spent hours sitting on the deck under the cool sea breeze, talking about their lives. "My mother used to hum while she chopped vegetables," Jin-woo said, staring out at the open water with a peaceful smile. "She was completely off-key, but it was the most beautiful sound in the world to me. I haven't thought about that sound without feeling pain until now." Zuri smiled, her eyes crinkling with warmth. "My family back home sings loud praise songs while the pots simmer. The neighbors always know exactly what we are cooking because the music fills the entire street. I used to think it was too loud, but standing in your kitchen here in Seoul, I realized how much I missed the noise." Jin-woo looked at her, his heart swelling with a feeling he had never experienced before. Zuri's vibrant energy, her sharp mind, and her breathtaking beauty were completely filling the empty voids in his life. He was deeply captivated by her. By the second night, as the yacht drifted under a blanket of stars, the professional boundary between them had completely dissolved. They were sitting close, their hands accidentally brushing against each other, causing a surge of electric chemistry that neither of them could deny. "Zuri," Jin-woo said softly, his dark eyes reflecting the starlight. "Tell me somewhere you have always dreamed of going. A place you used to look at and think, one day I want to stand there." Zuri laughed softly, looking up at the sky. "The Amalfi coast in Italy. When I was a young girl, I cut a picture of the colorful houses on the cliffs out of an old travel magazine and taped it to my mirror. I told myself that if I ever made it out into the world, I would see it with my own eyes." Jin-woo did not say a word. He simply reached over, took her hand firmly in his, and squeezed it. 2 days later, Zuri woke up to find the private jet descending over Europe. Jin-woo had arranged everything in secret. They spent the remainder of her week off walking through the cobblestone streets of the Amalfi coast, standing on a private cliffside villa balcony overlooking the sparkling Mediterranean Sea. Zuri looked out at the exact view she had dreamed of for decades, and tears of pure joy began to slide down her cheeks. Jin-woo stepped up behind her, gently placing his hands on her shoulders, pulling her back against his chest. "Why are you crying, Zuri?" She turned in his arms, wiping her face, a radiant smile breaking through her tears. "Because a week ago, I was an invisible cook crying over my tight budget in a rented room, and today, I am standing in my childhood dream with the most incredible man I have ever met. It feels like a beautiful dream I'm going to wake up from." Jin-woo leaned down, his face inches from hers, his voice rough with deep emotion. "This is not a dream, Zuri. I promise you. This is our reality now. I'm never going to let this feeling disappear." He leaned in and kissed her gently, sealing a silent promise between them. When they finally returned to Seoul, Zuri's life transformed completely, but her humble, generous heart remained entirely untouched. The hotel management, now fully aware of her status with the owner, immediately promoted her to executive head chef of the Obsidian Sky Lounge. Zuri took over the kitchen with absolute leadership, but she treated the dishwasher and the junior cooks with the exact same kindness she always had. The kitchen staff fiercely loved her, and high society elite men began booking out the restaurant months in advance just to experience her famous menus. Now, she and Jin-woo were in a passionate, high-profile relationship. Despite his grueling schedule running a global conglomerate, Jin-woo made it an absolute rule to drive down to the hotel every single evening, waiting patiently in his car just to take his queen home. Their nights were a beautiful whirlwind of romance. They would spend half the night on video calls when they were apart, laughing at inside jokes and sending sweet text messages. Zuri would regularly visit his private estate, cooking her signature authentic jollof rice, which the powerful billionaire had now become completely obsessed with. "You are going to completely ruin my strict corporate diet," Jin-woo teased one evening, leaning against his marble kitchen counter with a full plate, watching her wash the utensils. Zuri swatted his arm playfully with a dish towel. Good. You look too thin and stressed when I met you anyway. You look like a man who forgot that food is supposed to bring joy to your soul. I did forget, Jin-woo said, his playful tone turning deeply serious as he stepped closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. But you reminded me how to live, Zuri. They spent their free evenings walking hand in hand through the cool city parks, letting the night wind wash over them, or sneaking into the back row of crowded cinemas late at night to share popcorn like ordinary teenagers, hiding his famous face in the dark. Zuri also continued to work part-time shifts at the lounge because she refused to give up her passion, and Jin-woo respected her independence completely. 6 months into their relationship, Jin-woo knew he could no longer live a single second without her as his permanent partner. He wanted the proposal to be completely unexpected, grounded, and shockingly public to show the entire world how proud he was to love her. On an ordinary Sunday afternoon, he took her out for a casual shopping trip at a grand, crowded luxury hypermarket in the middle of the city. As they walked down the brightly lit aisle, debating which fresh ingredients to buy for dinner, Jin-woo suddenly stopped walking. Zuri turned around, confused. Jin-woo? What's wrong? Why did you stop? The surrounding shoppers began to notice the sharply dressed billionaire. A quiet hush washed over the crowded aisle as Jin-woo slowly reached into his heavy coat pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, and dropped down on one knee right on the supermarket floor. He opened the box, revealing a breathtaking, massive, flawless diamond ring that sparkled brilliantly under the store lights. Zuri Vance, Jin-woo said, his voice echoing clearly through the quiet aisle, trembling with a raw emotion the public had never heard from him. You did not just bring flavor back to my food. You brought life back to my soul. You are my queen, my heart, and my entire future. Will you marry me and let me spend the rest of my life loving you? Zuri's hands flew to her mouth, tears of pure shock and joy rushing down her face. The entire supermarket crowd held their breath. With a radiant, unforgettable smile, she cried out, "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Jin-woo slid the ring onto her finger, stood up, and pulled her into a passionate embrace as the entire crowd of shoppers broke into thunderous applause, cheering and capturing the beautiful moment on their phones. Because Jin-woo cherished her heritage and wanted her family to feel completely celebrated, he insisted that their wedding take place in her home country. The grand ceremony was held at an ultra-exclusive, high-class VIP venue overlooking the beautiful, glittering lagoon of Victoria Island in Lagos, Nigeria. It was a magnificent cultural masterpiece. High society African elegance met elite Asian wealth under one roof. Vibrant traditional Ankara fabrics danced alongside perfectly tailored suits. Top international corporate executives and dignitaries assembled to witness the union, quietly asking for second helpings of the magnificent fusion feast Zuri had designed for the reception. Zuri stood victorious, a stunning bride completely adored by the most powerful man in Seoul, surrounded by the deep blessings of her proud family. A few weeks later, the newlyweds flew back to South Korea to formally begin their journey as husband and wife. On Zuri's very first birthday as a married woman, Jin-woo told her to dress in her finest evening gown. He placed a soft blindfold over her eyes and drove her into the heart of Seoul's most affluent financial district. When the car stopped, he guided her out onto the pavement and gently untied the cloth. Zuri opened her eyes, and her breath caught completely in her throat. Standing before her was a magnificent, newly constructed, world-class luxury boutique hotel and restaurant. The architecture was stunning, blending modern glass with warm, rich accents. And there, engraved in massive, brilliant gold letters directly above the grand entrance, was the name, Zuri House. Jin-woo stepped beside her, looking at her shocked face with absolute pride. "Happy birthday, my beautiful queen. This belongs entirely to you. A world-class palace where the greatest minds and leaders of the world will assemble to dine, built and run completely under your name and your command. No managers to tell you to stay small. You own the room now." Zuri burst into fresh tears of deep gratitude, turning and throwing her arms around his neck, hugging him with everything left in her soul. The newly hired staff gathered near the entrance broke into soft applause, completely touched by the genuine love between their new employers. Zuri managed Zuri House with flawless elegance, power, and high-status execution. She became an independent hospitality mogul in her own right, her reputation growing so vast that international food critics flew into Seoul specifically to write columns about her establishment. Her workers absolutely worshipped her because she maintained her generous, kind heart, ensuring everyone was treated with dignity. Jin-woo would visit the hotel between his intense board meetings, sitting quietly at a corner table just to watch his wife command a room, still amazed by how she moved through her empire with such natural royalty. 1 year later, their perfect love story was crowned with the ultimate blessing. Zuri gave birth to beautiful, healthy twins. A gorgeous, radiant little girl with warm, light brown skin and her father's sharp, observant eyes, and a devastatingly handsome son with perfect Korean features and his mother's dazzling, disarming smile. The first time Jin-woo held both infants in his arms in the quiet hospital room, the ruthless billionaire wept openly, letting out all the years of hidden grief and celebrating the massive abundance of joy he had been given. 3 years quickly passed, and the twins grew into happy, curious children, their laughter echoing through the private quarters of Zuri House. Every single evening, the powerful billionaire, his beautiful queen, and their 2 gorgeous children would sit together at their private window table, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold and purple. Zuri had started her journey as an invisible cook in a dark basement kitchen, but through her pure talent, resilience, and unbreakable spirit, she had conquered the highest society in the country, winning the ultimate love, the ultimate wealth, and a beautiful legacy that would last forever. If this beautiful story of true love, cultural fusion, and the ultimate victory of a strong, kind-hearted woman moved your soul today, don't just scroll past. Make sure to smash that like button right now. Leave a comment below letting me know your absolute favorite moment of Zuri and Jin-woo's journey. And subscribe to the channel so you never miss our upcoming romantic dramas and billionaire marathons. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.